Certainly exciting to be in front of you today. That means we get to practice. That was my message to the team, prior to our contest Saturday to let's go out and win this afternoon and make sure we're practicing Monday. So it's a good day, and looking forward to the challenge that is presented to us and our preparation as we get ready for Friday night's game.
What kind of preparation is there for a team like Colgate that you haven't played before, maybe don't have a ton of knowledge on, but I'm sure you're picking it up fast?
I'm sure they're doing the same things, trying to figure out, who we are and, some of the tendencies that we have. As a staff, we'll try to do the same thing in the next couple of days is, figure out, who you're up against and some of the things that they're able to do. And, we exchanged videos today, so you get a chance to watch their last game. So try to put a game plan together in the next 2 or 3 days and try to get some information and some video to the team. And, the big thing is, what do we do well? And, last week was no different. Although we were playing a common opponent, it's more about what you do at this particular time of year than what your opponent does. So, get the kids ready to play, get them fired up, and, it should be an exciting evening.
Mark, what sold you on Kristen Campbell?
Probably Jackie Crum, my assistant. She had worked with her, one of the Canadian under-18 teams and camps, and so she knew her. We tried to recruit her. She ended up deciding to go to North Dakota. So when we got the information about North Dakota folding their program, the first thought process was, do we take a run at her and do we try to re-recruit her? And so we decided as staff that that'd be a good decision. And so you recruited her again and, brought her and her family down and, showcased what our opportunity might be. And, obviously it's worked out real well for both sides.
You have a lot of players on your team, past and present, that have kind of distinguished themselves by their work ethic. She seems to stand out, though, doesn't she?
She's special in that regard, especially at the age she's at. Normally kids, and I think of some of the high-end kids that we've had in the program, learn some of the little things and the details as they went through the 4 years here and continued to grow in those areas where, when Kristen came down, she already had them. But I think the article I saw the other day in the paper where, she talked about the mentors she had with the Lamoureux twins and some of the things that she saw as those young ladies got themselves ready for another Olympic run. She bought into what they were doing, what she saw, and put it into her daily resume, and continues to do that. And so, last week, I think it was at least once, if not twice, I had to kick her off the ice just to try to manage, things that I thought and felt were important at this time of the year. But she's got great habits. She's very detailed. She's very organized, and she's got a lot of goals in the back of her mind, what she wants to do.
Mark, was Saturday the best game that your team had put together? And if so, is that a function of the moment, being that it's win or go home type of moment?
I think it's a lot of things coming together. Your comment, I had the same feeling after the game, is in a lot of different areas. Maybe not as some fans watch our games, but as we as coaches watch the game, a lot of the little things and the little details we did very well. And, we took a lot of time and space away from, a very good team. We limit their scoring opportunities, and a lot of things that I watch within a game we did really well. And a lot of things have to come together to make that happen, but I think, knowing and understanding the crowd and the energy that was going to be in the building, I think our players feed off that. It's very rare that you'll go an entire season without losing a game at home. This team was able to do that, so they get excited to play in front of our crowd. They've created something that's special here, and look at some of our previous games. I remember the Friday game we played against Ohio State. They were highly ranked, playing very well at the time, and our players came out and played really well that night. And I think we ended up winning 7-0. So the atmosphere, the crowd, having two bands out there. As I watched introductions, I was getting excited. I wish I could have played, but. It's fun for the players, and I think you put all those little things together, and having a week to prepare for that game really helped out.
I remember in September you were talking about having to be patient with this team, and given the amount of turnover you had from last season. Given that, is there any part of you that's surprised that you're where you are right now?
Well, I know how tough it is to get to where we are. And I think as coaches, especially myself, it's about being in the moment, whether it was September 15th and we're getting ready to play Team Korea, or was it, last week. I think at this part of the season, last week's a long week for a coach because, you've just lost a game up in Minneapolis on Sunday. You lost a playoff championship game, and you got the same opponent on Saturday. And, what can you do differently? What can you do in the next 4 or 5 days to make sure your team's ready to play? And, when the game's going on and your team's playing real well, that's what you're looking for as a coach. But it's those down times and, away from practice, you're trying to figure out how to put this puzzle together. So when we came out Saturday and played as well as we did, I'm very proud of the group, the way they conducted themselves, the way they, prepped for the week, the way they practiced, and they went on the ice and showcased themselves and, put us in a real good position. But it's hard to get to, this point. I've always said that quarterfinal game is the most challenging one and the most difficult because you're in the NCAA tournament, but you're still not at the Frozen Four. So, and then having to play Minnesota again, it just presented a lot of challenge. But, the team surprised me in a lot of areas. Probably the biggest one is their ability to be consistent, on a daily basis with their way they practice, and then every weekend being consistent in the way they played. And, from start to finish, from Team to Korea to last Saturday against Minnesota, we've been very consistent in a lot of areas, and I think that's one of the reasons we're in the position we are right now.
Jay?
Mark, every year this team and this program is in contention for the national championship, yet the last one was 2011. Does it feel like it's been a long time, and does it just speak to how difficult it is to win it?
Well, if I talk to my sister on a regular basis, she keeps reminding me that. Again, every year is going to be a little different. I mean, the makeup of our team this year is completely different than what we had last year. And so the fun part of what we do is in September, you start with this group of kids and you try to develop and put together, make improvements over the course of the winter and put them in a position to have these opportunities. And so, as I told the team Saturday too, they were prepared for this opportunity. And, if we're back in September looking at, a quarterfinal game, are we going to be prepared for that opportunity? And this team has done that. They've been consistent. I think they feel confident in the way they're capable of playing. So as a coaching staff, we're very proud of that.
Andy?
Mark, you were talking about how the consistency of this team. Who kind of directed that, given that you're coming into the season, you don't know what you have a goaltender. Your leading goal scorer is a transfer. You kind of have an idea about her, but you're kind of moving some pretty big pieces around from given what you had a year ago. So who kind of directed things behind the scenes on this team to set that consistent tone?
Well, if I had to pick some players out, I'd probably start with one of our captains, Bailey Wellhausen. I think, just the way she conducts herself, either in the weight room or on the ice for practices, or probably most importantly, the way she handles herself and off the ice. And so with such a big incoming freshman class, you look to your senior leaderships, kids, and what they're going to be able to do and how they're going to be able to bring those young kids into the mix and get them to understand what the expectations are. I think Bailey's done a great job with that. You look at Lauren Williamson and, coming off hip surgery last year and, having to go through rehab all summer, but yet, had the willingness and whereabouts to work with these young kids and get them to understand and develop that chemistry that was going to be so vital this year. I think probably two of the kids that really helped out in those areas.
You and Dan and Jackie have been together as a coaching staff for 7 years now, and I'm wondering if you could touch on how that has helped you as a program be consistent and be getting to this level, and what kind of comfort level there is between the three of you in working with each other on the ice, off the ice, in kind of helping out in other situations.
It's probably like a player, if we talked about Kristen earlier and, attention to details. I think having a consistent coaching staff over a long period of time, those things exist. And so you have a lot of details that have to be put into place, whether it's with recruiting, power play, penalty kill, whatever it may be. There's a lot of details into, putting together a game plan and working within an organization, and to have the stability that we've had with our coaching staff and the knowledge and the understanding and the ability to grow, all three of us, in becoming better coaches over, every year. And so what happened last year, you learn from and you move forward, and hopefully you do a better job this year. And the big thing is with all three of us, I think we have the same philosophy, and we're here to serve our players. We're here to put them in a position to, get some opportunities, and put them in a position to prepare them for those opportunities, and really serve them as leaders, and working with them for 3 or 4 years to try to make them better players, better student athletes. And I think we have the cohesiveness, and so whether you're talking to Jackie or whether you're talking to Dan or you're talking to myself, I think we speak the same language. And the big part of that is we've been around each other for a long period of time, and I think having the consistency within your coaching staff filters down to having consistency of what we do on a daily basis. So as we bring in new players, they still see that consistency. The juniors and seniors have seen it for 2 or 3 years, and I think that just bodes well, because a lot of what we do is about these details and the willingness to do them.
Andy?
Mark, is it fair to say that chemistry doesn't replicate itself year after year?
Pardon me?
Is it fair to say that team chemistry doesn't replicate itself year after year?
No, I mean, if you think that way, I think you can get fooled pretty easily, because, with this year with 8 new freshmen and a transfer goalie, what was our chemistry going to be like? And so having the opportunity for a bunch of those kids to come in for summer school and get to know their players and get to know the environment and the surroundings of what we do is very helpful. And so, every year is going to be a little different, just because you change the pieces to the puzzle. And so you're going to lose some kids, you're going to bring in some kids. And the big thing is, as you recruit these kids, you find and try to find kids that, are going to fit well within your program. And I think Jackie and Dan have done a great job in those areas to bring in kids that understand who we are, what we're all about, what the expectations are, and how we go about our business. And I think that's a big reason we've been able to, especially the last 5, 6, 7 years, have some really solid chemistry.
I was going to say that you have that's been a constant. I mean, and yet the challenge of creating chemistry every year. The foundation has been set. What are the pillars that this program is on that help dictate what the chemistry is going to be like? Obviously, you just said recruiting and the coaching continuity.
Well, I think some things that are important to me, and being the leader of the program, is you're out in the recruiting trails and you're talking to families and young individuals, and whether it's hockey or some other things, I mean, you got to be passionate about what you do. I mean, you look at Jackie or Dan, or you look at Steph or the other people that work within our group, they're all passionate about what they do. They all play an important role in making us successful. And when I'm out recruiting and, bringing kids in and talking to them, you want to see that passion. And they're student athletes, so it has to be not only in the classroom, it certainly has to be, on the ice. They want to be, they want to be good hockey players. They want to be good students. And then they got to be competitive. I mean, you got to be competitive in what we do. And, you have to be competitive in the classroom. You have to be competitive on the ice. You have to be competitive amongst your teammates. And, you have to be really, really working at that competitiveness. And, along with that is commitment. They have to be committed to being a good student. One of the tough things about our university is, we've got high academics, which is good. And so for our players, they have to understand they have to be committed to the classroom and studying and doing all the things that they have to do to make sure they keep grades at where they need to be. And the same thing on the ice. They have to be in a position to push themselves, to work harder, to play harder, to do a lot of the little things that a lot of people don't see to become better players. And so, you put those couple things together. And then the last thing to me that's important is, is integrity. If we're going to do all this time, and I spend a bunch of time away from my family recruiting and doing the things that I need to do to run a solid program, if we're going to do all that, we might as well do things the right way. And to me, that's the pillars of building a solid program. It's easy to talk about. The hard part is to follow through and do those things.
Your freshmen haven't always been top 6 forwards or top 4D for you this year, but I wonder if you can just assess how they've been and what contributions and impact they've had on the team this year in the opportunities they've had?
Well, as a group, I think, they've grown. They've gotten better. Whether they've been on the ice a bunch or they've been on the bench watching, as a third or fourth liner. A couple of them, haven't dressed in certain situations. To me, it's all a learning process. It's an understanding of what it takes to be an elite or a good Division I hockey player. I relate it back to my first year in the NHL as a rookie, and I was on the fourth line and got a front row seat in a lot of games. Figure out how I was going to play at that level. What were some of the things that I needed to work on during that season and in the off season to make sure that when my opportunity came, that I was prepared for that opportunity. So I look at it in a similar sense that if I play 5 or 6 minutes or I've played 15 minutes, it's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn. And I'm sure a lot of them have learned a lot over the course of time. We watch them every day in practice. Their skill set has gotten better. And usually the biggest growth we see as a staff is between their freshman and sophomore years. So as they start next season, I think for a lot of them, it's going to be an opportunity to, not be relaxed in the sense where I can be comfortable with what I'm doing, but just this sense of being a college player, knowing all the people, having been through our league, having been through a schedule, having been through, a couple summer workout programs. They just seem to be more relaxed, and we really see a spike in their improvement during that time period. So with a lot of them, I'm sure we're going to see the same thing, but, in a lot of different cases, they've done really well. And, I know she's not a freshman, but you look at Maddie Rowe, who the first couple of weekends, was a healthy scratch in a couple of our games, and, all of a sudden her opportunity came, and now she's playing, with Abby's line, and now she's on the power play. And so you look at that as a classic example that somebody worked hard, got an opportunity, and took advantage of her opportunity.
Mark, you've been here a few times. Do you have an idea, other than game specifics, what it is your team will need to do as far as handling the intensity, the enjoyment of the moment that comes up this weekend to be able to skate away with a championship?
Well, hopefully some of the experiences that we've had, being at this event before, helps prepare your itinerary and try to put together the itinerary that's going to help you be successful. But if I have a cookie cutter type thing, I'd take Saturday's game and just put it into next Friday night's game, and say, I'll take my chances with that. But again, with a young team, you don't know how they're going to react. I love the way they reacted, in Saturday's game against Minnesota. And so what we do as a coaching staff, it's just business as usual. We won't change any of the things that we did, a couple weeks ago when we went up to play in our final face-off tournament. We'll do the